RPGs. Well, no, not those. Role-playing games. Now, I know the definition of RPG can vary from person to person, but to me, and to this list, RPGs are a genre where, for the most part, you take turns in battle, gain XP, level up, and usually the games are anywhere from 60 to 100 hours long. This is a genre that, as I've grown older, has become less appealing to me because nowadays, I just don't have the time to sink into these super long games. However, there are some RPG series to me that are worth the time to play, and that's what this video is all about. Before we hop into it, if you like my content and you want to see more, make sure to hit like, and if you're new, subscribe and join the crew. If you want notifications on my latest uploads, ring that bell. It all helps the channel grow. And a big thank you to the Patreon Brew crew for everything that you do. You go that extra mile to support the channel, and I couldn't be more grateful. Now, on to the video. The Diablo series. I love me some top-down action RPGs, but no game quite scratches that Diablo itch quite like, well, Diablo. Why this series is so low on the list, however, is for a number of reasons, not all of which we're going to go into, but primarily it's because each game in the series plays drastically different from one another. And if I'm honest, I've really only enjoyed playing Diablo 3. I think I dumped like... That was my phone texting me. Pikmin 3 for Switch just shipped. Yes! I've been playing Pikmin recently, I'm sorry. I absolutely love it. I think I dumped like over 300 hours into Diablo 3. My journey with Diablo started with 2, but I've never finished it. I tried rekindling my love for Diablo 2 with its remake, only to find out there was never much love there to begin with. But Diablo 3? That is my jam. It just has such a satisfying gameplay loop. Explore, kill hundreds of enemies single-handedly, and just watch that XP bar fill up. And by the end of it, you aren't just standing on a pile of bodies, you're standing on a pile of sweet, sweet loot, and it all provides just a dang near endless dopamine drip. Undertale. Just Undertale. Deltarune isn't really my jam, but Undertale is just so unique. It has great writing, great characters, amazing music, heartwarming and heartbreaking moments, and it was difficult. If you choose to do a genocide run in this game, I wish you luck, buddy. All of this is made all the more impressive that this entire game was made by one man over the course of a decade. There's so much love and passion for this game, and if you haven't played it yet, you totally should. It's like on everything now. PC, Switch, PlayStation, Xbox. Like, it's on everything. The Final Fantasy series. My journey with Final Fantasy began with Final Fantasy X. I never finished it, but I have finished Final Fantasy VII, 7 Remake, 13, 15, and I've put over 300 hours or so into 14. Still haven't finished it, but come on, it's an MMO, cut me some slack here. While my excitement for each new game has gone down a bit over the years, I still try to make it a habit to play the newest entries. I really loved Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I can't wait for 7 Rebirth. And also, I'm excited for 16. Out of all of them, I'd say 14 is my favorite, but if we're excluding 14, then Final Fantasy VII is definitely my favorite. I know, that's a very cliche answer, but it just has my favorite characters in the series, and I love the materia system. Final Fantasy will always be that RPG that introduced me to RPGs, and that's why I will always treat this series with the respect it deserves. Mass Effect. When I was in high school, I went over to my friend's house to hang out. I was looking through his Xbox 360 collection and came across Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. I love sci-fi, and I asked him what the game was about. He answered my question with a question asking, "You've never played Mass Effect before?" And not long after that, he let me borrow all 3 games. I went home, and for the next 2 or 3 weeks, I played nothing but that trilogy. Where had this game been all my life? It was so good. The story, the universe, the lore, and the characters. Your choices and your custom character carried over from game to game so seamlessly that the entire trilogy just feels like one giant game. I mean, the ending of the third game leaves a bit to be desired, but the destination did not ruin the journey for me in any way. Rogue Galaxy. I beat the original Rogue Galaxy back on PS2, and many years later it was ported to PS4. I played it again to see if I would still love it now as much as I did back then, and honestly, I don't. I love it even more than I did back then. This game is magical. It will take you on a fun and emotional space pirate adventure across the galaxy, and you can play it today for only $15. It has a great story and even more amazing characters. But what I love the most about the game is its combat system. Battles are not turn-based. They're more like slow-paced, live-action battles that take place in a small area. Every character has their own set of skills that can overwhelm the enemy. But the best thing about combat is the combination attacks. There are many characters in this game, and many of them have combination attacks with each other, and the animations for these attacks are so cool to watch. On top of that, they do a lot of damage. We may never see a Rogue Galaxy 2, but this game will always hold a special place in my heart. The Trails of Cold Steel series. This is an RPG series that I've only started playing recently as of last year. I liked its art style, and I saw Cold Steel 1 for sale around $10, so I gave it a shot. Its story and characters were great, and I was actually pretty blown away by its combat system. But the reason the series really hooked me is because it has a lot of elements from other games that I really love. Its combat system feels like a good mix of Rogue Galaxy, Final Fantasy, and Fire Emblem, and you can bond with other characters to increase your efficiency in battle, just like Fire Emblem. Its quartz system works a lot like the materia system from Final Fantasy VII. The game just has a lot of good elements from a lot of good games, while also maintaining its own sense of identity. The Cold Steel series is where I started with the series, and I think that's a fine starting point. However, you should definitely read up on the other games, or play them if you can before jumping into Cold Steel 2, as this series has a lot of lore, and you might get lost on what exactly is going on in 2, but it's super worth it. Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt. Witcher 3 was my first Witcher game, and oh boy, it blew me away. In college, I played almost nothing but this game. I was addicted, I was hooked, I got all the trophies and finished all the DLC. After that, I did take a long break from the game until its PS5 remaster, and now the game has its hooks in me once again. The world of The Witcher just pulls you in. Its side quests feel just as important as its main quests, which is why the game inevitably ends up feeling like such a long game. Its combat system isn't for everyone, but there's so much that comes with this package that it's a crime to dismiss it over one lackluster aspect. The game is almost always on sale for a cheap price, so if you haven't played it, trust me, it's a whole lot of bang for your buck. Before we get into our top 3, I asked you guys what was one of your favorite RPGs, and Rarzar Bex commented, Witcher, for sure. Hey, this person's got good taste. The Valkyrie Chronicles series. This watercolored strategy RPG takes place in the somewhat real but mostly fantasy war-torn country of Europa. In the game, you command several different kinds of soldier classes and even a tank. It has a great cast of characters, each with their own unique skills and abilities. It's an excellent and very fun strategy game. Most missions only focus on you taking the enemy flag, so for the most part, it's a game about speed, and in that case, the scouts are the best class because of their ridiculous range of movement. You can play Valkyrie Chronicles 1 and 4 on modern consoles. Don't worry about 2 and 3. 2 and 3 are only on PSP, and also 2 is bad and 3 is Japan exclusive. Now I know what you're thinking. I put this series over The Witcher? Yes, because if a new game came out for both of these series and I had to choose one, I would choose Valkyrie Chronicles. I absolutely love strategy games, and Valkyrie Chronicles is a very good strategy game, with lovable characters and addicting gameplay. You can catch them on sale pretty often too, so if you have the chance, make sure to give this awesome series a try. You won't regret it. The Dark Souls series. And when I say the Dark Souls series, I'm talking about Demon Souls, Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, Bloodborne, Sekiro, and Elden Ring. My journey with this series of games started with Dark Souls 2, and ever since I had my first sweet taste of victory, I've never looked back. I'm always craving another challenge with these games. They really are games about overcoming the odds. They're difficult, sometimes they're very difficult. I believe no other series has taught me the meaning of patience more than this one. Besides the huge rushes of dopamine I get after beating bosses in this game, I also just really love the amount of freedom these games come with when it comes to customizing your character. For most of the games, you can really be whatever you want. That's why I love this series so much. The Dark Souls series to me is all about challenge, and no other game gives me the same sense of accomplishment that Dark Souls does. These games to me are like ice cream for the soul. The Fire Emblem series. If you've known me a while, this will come as no surprise that this would be my favorite RPG. No other RPG gets me as hyped when a new game is announced more than Fire Emblem. To me, it's the king of strategy games. Is it the deepest? No. Is it the hardest? No. But it is the funnest. What makes Fire Emblem fun? That's a question I could dedicate an entire video to, but for me personally, and to put it simply, it's straightforward, and only as complex as you want it to be. Wide as a puddle, but deep as an ocean. But it's more than just its strategy combat. It's also the characters, the support conversations, the absolute banger music, the classes, the stories, and the many worlds this series has spanned. I've been with Fire Emblem since Fire Emblem Awakening, and have played most of the series since, and no other strategy RPG, or RPG in general, has hooked me like the Fire Emblem series. It's just a game I can come home to after a long day of work and just play and relax. But one of the biggest reasons Fire Emblem is my favorite RPG series, and perhaps it is the biggest reason of them all, the camera angle. It's straight up and down, and I like it. Why is it in every other strategy game the camera angle is tilted? Like, I don't mind it, but there's never an option to change it.